If you've been paying attention, you know that I traded in the Cadillac on a 2024 Silverado 1500 RST. And while it is a very nice truck, there were a couple of things that I just was not willing to pay dealership prices for. One of those things was a bedliner. Pickup truck without a bedliner, well, let's just say the moment you try to start doing truck things with your truck, you start to immediately regret your life choices. So, in this video, I am going to spray in Seymour's 2K protective coating. I've seen a couple of other folks that have used this, and it looks like a pretty good deal. I've done roll-on liners in the past. I had Herculiner in my YJ. In fact, I even have a Herculiner kit that's waiting to go into the LJ. This is supposed to be a step above the roll-on, but maybe not quite as high as the professional spray-ins. So like most projects where you're laying down anything on top of paint, the number one most important thing is prep. Step one has to be good prep. Now, what Seymore suggests is that you clean off your bed with like a pressure washer or something. Make sure it's good and clean as far as, usual dirt and grime and whatever concerned. Then, after you've pressure washed it and rinsed it out good, then you want to go over it with a grease and wax remover, which I already had some, so I didn't buy theirs. They do have a product called a waterborne cleaner, I believe. I didn't look too closely as to what exactly that is, but I decided the grease and wax remover that I use on other paint projects should be good enough. Then you're supposed to go over it with a solvent, like isopropyl alcohol, or I think they say acetone will do, or of course they have their own solvent cleaner. And then you need to scuff the heck out of that bed. They recommend using this cup-shaped nylon abrasion tool that you put onto something like an angle grinder. But I decided to pick up pads instead, these abrasive pads. So I bought a box of abrasive pads and I went to work. Now, at the point where I'm starting this video, I've already got the bed cleaned and I went over it with the first cleaning with the wax and grease remover. And of course, here you've been watching me mask off the bed at this point. Now, this is recommended because once you start scuffing, if you hit something you didn't want to scuff, it's hard to unscuff something, right? So you should probably mask before you start scuffing, whether you're using the angle grinder method or the scrubbing pad method like I'm using. Now, when I'm masking stuff off, there's a little trick I wanted to show you quick. In the bed here, there's a threaded hole. I don't know what it's for. There was nothing in it. I didn't take anything out of it, but I presume it's for some accessory you can buy from GM. I don't want to ruin it by getting bed liner inside of the threads. So there's a little trick I picked up years ago where you take a piece of masking tape and roll it up with the sticky side pointing out, and then you sort of thread it into the hole. And then when you're all done, you just thread it back out, and then you should have a nice, clean thread. Couple other things to note in this particular bed, which of course is going to be different from truck to truck, is there were all of these, you see these holes in the side of the bed and in the front of the bed. They had rubber caps on them. I took all those out because I want to be able to remove them again later. I don't know what these are for. I think they're for another sort of accessory, but I didn't want to just spray over the caps and make them sort of permanent or have to cut them out if I ever wanted to remove them. There's also a power plug, like an actual 110 outlet in the bed of this truck. I unscrewed that and pulled it out, unplugged it, and I masked over the opening that it left. Now, the plug is kind of square-shaped, and it covers over the edge of where it bolts to, so I tried to mimic that with the masking tape so that the plug wouldn't be mounting back onto bed liner. And then, of course, there's these bed lights that are at the very far rearmost corners of the bed. Those I didn't want to risk pulling out because they were very solid. I don't know how they're mounted. I didn't want to pry on them or anything, so I just taped those in. I'm just going to spray over them. Now, for the process of actually scuffing this thing, I got started out in the daylight in the driveway there, and then Mother Nature decided to give me a good old FU and started to rain. It was not supposed to rain. Just about ruined the project for me. So I started scuffing, and then it started raining, and then I had to figure out how to get the truck backed as far into the garage as I could, which meant pulling the LJ out of the garage and onto the side of the house, which warranted me a parking ticket. Yes, the local police gave me a parking ticket for having the Jeep parked outside for a few hours because it's not inspected. Gotta love municipalities. Anyway, so I started the scuffing. It started raining. I scuffed in the rain for a little bit, and then I decided to back it up into the garage, as I mentioned. Then I waited for it to dry, cleaned it a little bit, and then scuffed it again because I didn't like the job it got while it was wet. So I did quite a bit of work scuffing. I still think I could have scuffed more, but I got to be honest, I had scuffed for like an hour and a half at that point, and I was really getting sick of it. So if I were to do this again, I would buy the tool. I would buy something to put on a power tool that would scuff this thing. And the nylon cup that they suggested looked like it would really do a great job. So I think I said this before, buy the cup. Don't be a cheap skate like me. All right, so the next task at hand after you finish scuffing is to get all the freaking dust that you just made out of the bed. You could use a shop vac. I did try to use a shop vac, but it was really a tedious task because my shop vac didn't have the right attachments that I was hoping for. So I reverted to something that I had picked up while I was doing the paint on the Lijay, and that was glass cleaner. I know, it sounds weird, right? But I ended up depending really heavily on this, and it was a trick I picked up from a YouTuber I found that was teaching how to paint cars. They use glass cleaner before they do the wax and grease remover and before they do any other sort of solvents to clean off the body of a car, because the glass cleaner will lay on the paint and it'll kind of foam up and it'll collect all the dirt and grime and dust, and then you just wipe it away, and generally it takes everything away. So it worked really well when I was doing the paint on the Lijay, so I figured, why not do it here? I had a bunch of cans of the same glass cleaner I used for that project still sitting around because I'd bought this case. So I sprayed down the bed with glass cleaner and then wiped it out good. And then after I wiped it good, that's when I went back and did the rest of the prep, which is isopropyl alcohol, and then the grease and wax remover that you would normally use to prep a car for paint. Here's what I ordered, and here's what I got. So this is their 2K protective coating. I've seen folks like Ian Johnson using this, and I thought, what the heck, I'll give it a shot, and if it turns out terrible, then I'll pay a professional later. But at any rate, I ordered their kit, which is just the stuff that you need in order to lay down the coating, and then I also ordered their, they call it a Schutz gun. But I'm from northeastern Pennsylvania. I know better. That's a Schutz gun. Because it's spraying down Schutz. Anyway, the instructions are right here on the top of the box. These are the instructions that I accidentally followed in the wrong order. But I still think I'm going to be okay. The last step. So what they tell you to do is pressure wash, then clean with Seymore waterborne prep cleaner, and dry with a clean cloth. I cleaned it, I pressure washed it, and then I cleaned it with my oil and grease remover. Cleaned with a solvent-based cleaner, and then they want you to mask the surfaces, and then they want you to abrade the surface. Now, this is where they used that cup-shaped nylon, I think it is, abrasion disc or cup that goes on like a grinder, it looked like, or like a, I don't know the name of it. Those things that look like grinders that people use for polishing their cars. A polisher? I don't know. Anyway, or they said you can use those pads that I used. Now, the pad I used is Gator 360 grit abrasion pad, right? They're sort of like a Scotch-Brite pad. Could I have gone with a more coarser one? Perhaps. I don't know. They mentioned in their video the maroon pads, but they didn't say what brand, I don't think. So I went with those because they didn't. I don't think they told me a grit. What's it say on here? Oh, 120 to 180 grit sandpaper. Uh-oh. So that wasn't quite as gritty as what they would have suggested, but I got it pretty well scuffed, I think. You know, maybe it could be better. I guess we'll find out, right? The idea is that you want it dull, and that's what I did. Okay, and then they want you to re-clean it with the waterborne prep cleaner, which is what I just did, except I did the IPA after the scuffing. So hopefully that's going to be okay. And then, for coverage coat, we want to assemble a gun, mix one bottle at a time, reserve the final bottle for the texture coat. Now, they said this is important, and I think how many bottles are in here? There are 4 bottles. And a measuring cup. Anything over here? Yes. Okay. Let me pull these so you can see what's going on here. So, what we're supposed to do here, all this stuff. Oh, that's in other languages. So if you speak a different language, they got you covered. You're supposed to mix 8 ounces of Part B with one of these Part A containers. And then immediately turn it upside down and shake for, I think it said 60 seconds. No, vigorously shake for 30 seconds. And then let it rest for a minute, and then shake for an additional 30 seconds, right? And then we remove the cap, attach it to the gun, and spray it. It says to spray it at 60 to 75 psi. I'll make sure I get my compressor set up for 60 to 70 psi. The gun itself, I've only briefly looked at inside of here. I think I'm going to need, yeah, I'm going to have to get an air fitting to put on there. I'll steal it off of something else. It's a pretty simple thing. The gun itself was like 35 bucks. The instructions also say to clean it in between spraying, like in between bottles. We're going to find out how important that is because they also said to use their cleaner, and I didn't buy their cleaner. So I'm going to try lacquer thinner. Hopefully that'll do the trick. But at any rate, I'm going to have to put a fitting on here. Look at that, it's a little chintzy. That's okay. All right, so I'm going to get this set up, get my air compressor set up, and then we're going to try to spray the first layer. No idea if I should or shouldn't shake that up, but it seems like the right thing to do. Now, this stuff is like clear or white, which is kind of crazy, and then this is black, so the measuring bottle also only goes to 7, which is weird. Okay, immediately upside down and shake. Rest for 1 minute. It's thicker. All right. Look at that murky blackness. All right, let's go bedline a truck. What do you think? Now, for spraying, they recommend that first 3 bottles of the product that you put onto the bed should be essentially the first 2 coats. You take the bottle mixed as I described a second ago, and you attach it to the gun and pretty much pull the trigger. You want to be close-ish to the thing that you're spraying on, so in this case the truck bed. About a foot or less away is what I was aiming for. The stuff does come out really goopy. If you spray it against something, expect the air pressure to give you a bit of blowback, so be careful where you put your face. The coverage isn't awesome. On the first bottle, it worked really well. It covered, actually, I thought, pretty well. On the second bottle, I was having trouble getting a good spread out of it, and I think that was because the gun needed to be cleaned, but I'll talk more about that in a minute. Now, the last step is the texture coat, they call it. You take the last bottle of the product that you have in your box there, and you mix it the same way, like the same ratio, the 8 ounces to 1 bottle, but then you only shake it for 30 seconds, and then hook it up to the gun and get ready to shoot. The idea is that this one is a little bit thicker, and then you hold it further away from the surface that you're spraying on. They say between 24 and 36 inches. You're just supposed to be laying down sort of a dust coat, and this is supposed to leave a texture on top of what you have already sprayed down. All right, so first impressions. I really felt like I needed a 5th bottle of the Schutz, of the product itself. I got through the 3rd bottle, and I'm like, this isn't coated well enough. So I did my best to coat it as best as I could, and I decided I was thinking about taking the 4th bottle and mixing it normal and doing a last coat with it. But I decided to trust the process. And instead, I did exactly what they said to do and did the texture spray. And I think it came out okay. I mean, I don't see any red. There's a couple spots where it didn't coat like I wished it would have. Like, there's a... Hold on, let me get my light set down. Along the edge of the bed here. It's like the center of the bed is a separate sheet, and then they have a seam of some kind of sealer in between, right? And where the crevice where that sealer mates with the bed makes a really tight crevice, right? And I couldn't get any Schutz. I keep calling it Schutz because it's the Schutz gun. I couldn't get any of the product into that crevice. So if I look at the right angle, I see like a little line of red on both sides where that is. At the end of the day, I think I'm okay with that, but I wish it would have been able to get in there better. I don't know that that's Seymour's fault. It's just kind of the way it is. So the directions say you're supposed to take off the masking tape as soon as it's done, like while it's still wet. And the video that they have online says you're supposed to wait a bit so it sets up before you take off the tape. I don't know, because there's a couple cases where the instructions here don't match what's in their video. I don't know if that's like the cleaning the gun. The instructions there don't say cleaning the gun in between bottles is necessary. But so I went from the 1st to 2nd bottle without cleaning the gun, and the 2nd bottle shot terrible, which I think is part of why I didn't get the coverage I was hoping for. So when I went from 2nd to 3rd bottle, I cleaned the gun by dipping it in lacquer thinner and just shooting it through the gun like I would clean a normal paint gun, and that did the trick. It came out nice and clear, and then the next bottle shot really well. So I would definitely clean between layers, or between coats, or between bottles is what I'm trying to say. Let's see, what else? I did like the gun shot really well, but as it got dirty, you definitely noticed that it didn't spread as well. So that's why cleaning it is important. I think that's it. What I'm going to do, it's been sitting for, I don't know, 30 minutes while I cleaned up, got all the... Oh, they recommend you wear one of those paint suits when you paint. Wear a paint suit. I am covered in Schutz. It was on my arms. Wear a long sleeve shirt. It was too hot today. I didn't want to wear a long sleeve shirt. I should have. I got it all over my arms. It was on my elbows and stuff. Wear long sleeves at the very least. You might want to consider eye protection. I didn't wear eye protection, didn't have any problems, but I did have a couple cases where I had some blowback, where I had to move my head back quick because I was worried that I was going to get hit in the face with Schutz. So don't skip the safety, guys. And I didn't talk about it, but I wore my respirator mask, a kind with the canister filters. I can get the type of filters I used if you're curious. All right, I really want to get this tape off. So without climbing into the bed, because I can't do that yet, I'm going to try to get the tape off from here and from along the sides of the bed. See how it looks. Ready? You guys can't see. We're gonna fix that now. Obviously still wet, so this may change in appearance as it dries, but it looks pretty good. See right there. So I'm looking through the camera, I feel like right there doesn't have as good coverage as I wanted. But I think for the most part I'm happy with it. We will see how it looks after it sets up good. Alright. Okay, I'm going to finish getting this stuff off of here. So what do you think? Am I going to regret putting this on the bed of my truck? I really hope not. The nice thing about having this be a DIY kit is that I can probably buy some more products and fill in the stuff that's a little bit thin, because I really feel like I needed more, right? So if you're looking at doing a bed on your own pickup truck, or perhaps you've got a bed that's larger than this is actually less than a 6-foot bed. It's like a 5-foot 9-inch bed or something. If you've got a long 8-foot bed or something, you probably want to buy maybe 2 kits, or a kit and perhaps some supplemental. I don't know if you can buy just individual bottles of this stuff or not, but I think in the places where it coated thick, it looks really nice, and we're going to see how it holds up. I will be more than happy to report back after I've used this a few times for hauling things, or even if I've gotten a shovel against it or some other sort of abrasive thing. Another thing to note is that after about 2 hours, this thing is dry enough that you can touch it, but it's not ready for any sort of contact for 48 hours. And it's not ready for normal use until 7 days after you've sprayed it. Now, with how wet and humid it was outside when I sprayed it, I'm going to give this thing a whole lot of time to try to cure up as long as I can there. So, yeah, tell me what you think. What do you think? How do you think this came out well? I don't know. The jury's still out for me. We're going to see how it goes, and we're going to see how it holds up over time, and maybe I will eventually buy some more of the coating to try to fill in some of those thin spots. Well, remember, folks, if you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, let me know what you think, leave some comments, and remember, get out there and wheel. I'll see you in the next one.